Hello everyone and welcome back. My name's dustinkreis and today we're going to do a game discussion. I just finished The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3 brought to us by Naughty Dog. And this is why I game. Games like this, stories like this in video games are why I love this hobby, this, lifestyle that we've chosen. This thing rivals fucking TV shows. It rivals movies in the story it tells and the emotional attachment that you get to a little girl that's running around with you. It reminds me a lot of like Ico and a lot of it like BioShock Infinite, how you had Elizabeth around you all the time. Really great in terms of its storytelling, but also really kind of cool in terms of its gameplay. Like Enslaved, having this partner that goes with you and helps you out in puzzles and things like that really brings a lot to the game. Gosh, I mean, where do I begin with this thing? Like I said, story-wise, this thing is this is an awesome storyline. Maybe not as highfalutin as BioShock Infinite, but in terms of like emotional resonance, it really just kind of sinks its teeth into you. Sort of no pun intended there. Gameplay wise, this is where the game kind of fell a little flat for me, I guess, because I don't know what I was going into it, and there was so much hype over this game that I was expecting sort of a reinvention of the wheel. And in a lot of ways, I'm going to say this, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But basically, it's Uncharted with survival aspects. And that, like I said, that's not a bad thing. But I guess I was just expecting something big and new. And what I got was a further refinement of sort of what Uncharted was. And then in this new environment and setting, it really kind of does kind of change the gameplay a little bit. But let's go ahead and let's break this game down and talk about it. The Last of Us, like many things in our society today, is very filled with post-apocalyptic glee. I loved the setting of this game. And in this, it's not zombies. Fantastic, because if it was a fucking zombie game, I probably would not have bought it. What the pandemic in this game, what it is actually really awesome. I remember watching Planet Earth, and there was an episode, I can't remember if it was rainforests, it might have been rainforests or something like that, where this ant was like going crazy, and then all of a sudden through like time-lapse footage, this like mushroom starts sprouting out of its head. And it was the most creepy thing I think I saw on Planet Earth, the BBC series. So this game presupposes what happens if one day that fungus mutates and is able to affect human beings. And the crazy thing about it is it's not that far-fetched of an idea. This kind of stuff happens all the time in the animal and plant kingdoms. Things evolve, things change. So it's not that out there that something like this would happen. And what would happen to society when this happens? And it's a complete breakdown. And fortunately, humanity has been able to weather this a little bit better in The Last of Us than they usually do in like the zombie movies. There are zones that are sort of held by the military in a very sort of Gestapo fashion with curfews and things like that, but that's very early in the game. Most of the time you're wandering through barren streets because your character Joel, who has his own sort of shady past, and the least we talk about the opening of this game, the better, because I got to the end of that intro and I was just like, holy shit, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, because it's such an emotionally charged intro. you know, if you watch a lot of these types of movies and shows, you probably see where it's going to go beforehand, but there's still just that sort of that sucker punch of what happens. And then it jumps 20 years later, which I didn't know was going to be that big of a jump. Um, and I was like, whoa, you know. But I guess, you know, you would have to let 20 years pass in order to have the world be the way it is. But anyway, Joel is tasked with taking this young girl, Ellie, across basically the United States to get her to a laboratory for, I don't want to spoil it, for a very specific reason. You can probably figure out if you think about it, but I'm not going to spoil it. And along the way, of course, they start off very, very sort of nasty to each other, because this is a nasty, nasty world, and people are thinking about their own survival. But throughout the game, there really is, I was so surprised and happy by this, there really was a journey. These characters start off in one place and they end in a very different place. And for a person who likes a great narrative, that was very exciting for me and kept me playing, because I had to know what happened next. So without really getting into too much of the storyline, it's basically, you know, your post-apocalyptic thing. But what really struck me is not only are you fighting the infected, but you're also fighting your fellow man. And that's another thing that the game really does really well, is just show how far man, you know, without the trappings of society, how we would really just fall, you know, and how dark humanity can get. This is a dark game, and while there's not really a lot of choice in the game as to what happens, you don't get to make like big choices like you would in, say, The Walking Dead. But I don't know. It still just struck me. I guess this struck me more than Walking Dead, because just because of the graphical glitches in Walking Dead. I know I need to finish it, but anyway, yeah, the storyline just amazing. Naughty Dog. And it really makes me want to throw in the other two Uncharted games and play those so I can get those amazing stories as well. But the gameplay. So if you've ever played Uncharted, the mixture of third-person gunplay and platforming, not so much the wild platforming that you know, Nathan Drake does, or that, you know, Lara Croft did in Tomb Raider, but a much more subtle and realistic type of platforming that you'd actually have to do in the real world. Really, really nice. One of the great things about it is sort of the RPG aspects, in that you're always foraging for items to sort of you know, craft, you know, bombs or med kits or, you know, stuff like that. You're always looking for pieces of junk to upgrade your weapons. You're always looking for this. I mean, there's just I mean, it really does put you in that world and make you feel like you are a scavenger. You are trying to survive. Even though I would really like a game like this, and I don't know, it probably wouldn't work, but I always would like a game where you actually had to eat and drink and worry about, you know, food and water, a real survival horror game, you know, where you're not just worried about running away from zombies and stuff, but you're actually trying to survive. And in a lot of ways, I think this is as close as we're probably going to get, because when you have to worry about food and water and stuff like that, it really doesn't, it's really not a game anymore, you know, it's real life, I guess. But yeah, as far as graphics go, or not graphics, as far as gameplay goes, the controls are spot on perfect, man. If you've played the Uncharted games, you know Naughty Dog is not going to let you drop in that regard. Just spot on perfect. You know, you can upgrade skills with Joel as well, because when you first start out, when you aim, his weapon will sway a little bit, just like it would in the real world. But you know, you can upgrade a skill to lower that sway down, and you know, it kind of tricks you in a lot of ways to make you think that the controls maybe aren't as good. But really, when you start getting into the game, especially during the last sequence where it's a lot of action, I was like, quickly jumping out, shivving people, and then ducking back into the cover before anyone can see me. And it was a lot of fun, that last stage, really trying to get around the enemies that are there. I'm not going to say who they are, but really a lot of fun. And by the end of the game, you will feel like you are a fucking badass, being able to take out people. You'll run in and you'll hear people, you'll drop down into your crouch, which is kind of like a detective mode where it allows Joel to listen very closely. You can hear enemies move around you. I guess that's a big thing I should say also. Sound plays an amazing part of this game. From everything from the clickers hearing you make noise, which clickers are a type of enemy that are the infected. They're blind, so they can't see you, but they have very acute hearing. And if you make... there's a couple clicker sequences where this was a big time where I kept dying because I would just get in a rush, I would make a stupid mistake, and all these clickers would swarm me. But I got the upper hand on them sometimes because you can also use sound to fuck with them. Constantly through the game, you'll find bricks and glass bottles. And what you can do is you can either use these as a weapon, which are kind of effective as a weapon, but you don't really want to use them as a weapon. You can throw them and it makes sound, and enemies will go investigate that sound. Now, one of the things that I did, you have secondary weapons like Molotov cocktails and... Duncan, what are you doing? Molotov cocktails and these nail bombs. What you can do, and it's really awesome to do this, is to set the enemies up. So, like, you can either set down a nail bomb kind of close to where the clickers are at so they can hear when you throw the glass bottle. So set the nail bomb down, run away, throw the glass bottle at the nail bomb. They'll come investigate the sound. The nail bomb will blow up and kill them. Now, that's kind of cool. The thing I did was I was in an area where there were 4 clickers. I threw a glass bottle, quickly switched to a Molotov cocktail, because 2 clickers just rushed right in to investigate that sound. Molotov them, and as they were screaming and dying in their death throes, the other 2 clickers heard them, came and investigated, walked into the fire, and burned themselves up. So for the price of 1 Molotov cocktail, I killed 4 clickers. And that's the kind of stuff you can do in this game. I feel like I really should go back and play it again, because I didn't use the combat system to its fullest ability. And maybe when you play on a hard... because I just played on normal. When you play on a harder difficulty level, I'm pretty sure the game will force you to really think about the items that you're going to use. Whether you want to set up a trap. Because, there's a thing like smoke bombs. You can use them to disrupt enemies or to make a getaway. I barely used them at all. And I feel like I should have used them more than what I did. What else in the gameplay? There are some quick time events, but they're few and far between. Stealth. I think you could actually, except for a few areas in the game, you could actually play this game if you're really good at stealth without killing anybody. And in some regards, I would almost recommend, because there's one spot towards the end of the game where there was a ton of enemies, and I saw that they were kind of moving in a pattern, so I was able to just sneak my way through there and not waste any of my ammo or anything like that. So if you can, when you get into these situations, stop and think, because there's multiple ways to confront these encounters. You can go in guns blazing and try to do that. You can try to stealthily kill things, or you can just use your stealth to get around them and say, fuck it, I'm moving on. Really, really an awesome gameplay. And I guess the more I talk about it, the more I realize it really isn't Uncharted. It's more than that. So, in a lot of ways, The Last of Us... Yeah, you know what? Take back everything I said about the gameplay. It's not... It's so much more than Uncharted, now that I think about it. The graphics, absolutely beautiful. It reminds me a lot of Enslaved, that same sort of mindset where You know, not like Fallout, because I love these post-apocalyptic games, but Fallout is very brown. You know, the world has been reduced to ash, blah, blah, blah. This is what an apocalypse would really look like. Nature would start taking over again, and it's just, everything about the game is just gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I did notice there was a couple instances of pop-in. There was a couple times as one of the characters, I pulled out my gun, and instead of having a gun in their hand, they were just like this, you know, with no gun there. But then I switched weapons and switched back, and the gun was there. And then there was one time the game just froze on me completely. No, because that was actually right after I restarted today. So I was going to say, yesterday I played the game for like 10 hours straight. And, yeah. So I was thinking maybe the PlayStation 3 got hot and just said, you know, screw this, I'm freezing. But no, this was like right after I started it up, and it did freeze on me, and I had to restart, which wasn't a big deal because I was literally 2 steps past where my spawn point was. But yeah, the graphics are just amazing. The character models. Sometimes you'll watch these characters and you'll say, oh my god, these are real people. They did an amazing job with the facial animations. Absolutely astounding. Like I said, the music, I want the soundtrack. I need to have the soundtrack. The soundtrack is that good. It was done by, I can't remember his name. I don't know if it's on the box right off the top of my head. But he did the music for the Motorcycle Diaries and On the Road. There's a couple other big ones that I saw that he did as well. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I need that soundtrack. I'm going to go hunt that soundtrack down. And in terms of the other audio, fantastic voice acting. Really just sells the game. Not a bad voice actor in the bunch. Really impressed with the 2 main leads. You have to have that for the 2 main leads though as well. Because, I mean, they really have to sell the game. And just all the other audio, and the ambiance of the game, just stellar. Just stellar. I don't know, man. I'm going to have a really tough time choosing between this and Bioshock Infinite for Game of the Year. I'm really going to have to think about it. Right now, I'm kind of... It's a war between... What do I like more? Do I want like an emotionally resonant story more? Or do I like highfalutin brain twisters, you know? Because I really love both. So, it's going to be a real struggle. But right now, after finishing this game, I have to give the edge a little bit to Last of Us. We'll see how I feel towards the end of the year. But don't be surprised if it comes down between those two. Because this is a phenomenal game. Worth $60. Easy. If you're waiting for this thing to get cheap, just go buy it right now because it is completely and utterly worth it. It's, you know, they're going to keep supporting the PlayStation 3 for a long time, but this is an amazing, you know, PS4 is right around the corner. This is an amazing way to go out with the PS3. So if you guys are, you know, kind of sitting on the fence about it, I'm telling you, you're going to love it. It's a fantastic game. So anyway, guys, that's just my discussion on The Last of Us. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I had the day off tomorrow, and I was really looking forward to playing this tomorrow, but I just couldn't put it down tonight and finished it. So anyway, guys, that is it for The Last of Us. I want to thank you all for watching. My voice is going, so I'm getting off here. So take care, and I'll see you next time.